Greetings, friends. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with a brand new work in progress episode of 50 Years in the Dungeon, the show I do to celebrate the fact that our beloved hobby of tabletop gaming is now more than half a century old. I often am chatting with people who've worked on various games, and while I chat, I begin work on cartoon homages, cartoon homages to classic gaming art. But then, when we finish, I usually have a sketch done, just pencil sketch, and over time I finish them. However, this year I've fallen a little behind, so I've started doing this second kind of show, like we're having tonight, where I will be working on a piece that I began in an earlier episode. This one was, I don't remember the episode number, but it was when Brian Suskind was my guest. We were talking about all of his work at Cobalt Press, and in particular his work on a book that was kickstarting at the time, the Northlands Sourcebook and Northlands Sagas. Sagas is a book of adventures. That's what I did the sketch for, and that's what I'm going to be working on tonight. Sometimes I have a guest in here with me in these episodes, and we just kind of bounce, chat around. But you know what? It's holiday season, and people are busy. So it's just me tonight, me and drawing, and you if you're watching. So I'll try and keep an eye on the chat and answer any questions you have, or just chat with you. Or maybe I'll just ramble to myself a little. Maybe I won't even do much of anything talking-wise and just do some drawing. That could be fun, too. All right, so I'm going to grab my iPad. I do all my drawing here on an iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and the app Procreate. This is what I use in my professional life. People like to know what I'm using, and so I tell you. It is not in any way sponsored, so I get nothing out of telling you that, other than I like it and I recommend it. Hey, Becky. Hello, Michael. Good to have you all with me. Good to see you. How is your December going? We're about a third of the way through December already. It seems like just yesterday everyone was saying, "I can't believe it's December already." Now it's time to say, "I can't believe we're a third of the way through December already." Procreate. Yes. Did I say something else? I might have. You know, I find when I'm typing, when I'm writing about what I'm doing, I very often transpose Procreate, and Patreon. When I'm trying to think of one word, the other one pops into my head. So I may have said that. Not badly accepting the snow. You know what? I was just thinking today, we here in the Pacific Northwest are under like a week-long atmospheric whatever they call it. A lot of rain. And I was driving to lunch today, and I was looking around, and I thought, it's pretty crappy weather. It's gray, it's chilly, it's raining, but it's not snowing. So that made me feel much better about the whole thing. We've got a lot of flooding here. A lot of flooding going on here in the Pacific Northwest. Rivers are overflowing, and I know some people who've had their houses flood, and it's bad. It's not saying that it's all, wonderful rain, but it would be much worse if this huge amount of rain was snow. We'd be up to our eyeballs in it. Michael says, got his flu shot Monday, and I think I have the reactive sniffles. Or just a cold. Yeah, it's hard to tell, really. Well, I hope that's all it is a little bit of sniffles. Deluge. Atmospheric deluge. That sounds right. Okay, here we go. I'm going to switch views here so you can see what I'm working on. Here is my iPad, what I'm doing on my iPad. The Northlands cover looks like this. It's the one on the left. The one on the right is my sketch, my cartoony version of it. And it's time for me to dive in here and do some drawing. Do some drawing. Snohomish River is going to be 5 feet above flood stage. Yeah, highest ever. There's a lot of places around here that are going to have record setting or close to record setting uh, levels on the rivers. The Snoqualmie uh, Falls. It may not be a record, but man, holy cats! There's just a crazy amount of water going over what is usually a pretty I don't want to say lazy, but it's the waterfalls you see at the beginning of Twin Peaks, right? So it's not a huge waterfall. Uh, it's just usually a couple of. It's very beautiful, but it's just not. It's not Niagara Falls. It's not a huge waterfall. But today or currently, it's a raging river, and all of the valley beyond it is flooding because of all the water that's coming off there. I posted on my Facebook a link to some news reports with videos about all the flooding, photos and videos of all the flooding in the Snoqualmie Valley. Oh, I'm already starting bad. I'm on the wrong layer. Whew. Let's just get rid of all that. Goodbye, lines. And we will come back and pick a new layer. Dale Donovan saw a video of the falls and the flooding in Auburn where your house was. Yeah, thankfully, I am up on the hill. I'm on the East Hill in Kent. But there are rivers up here too. It's not. It's kind of funny in this area. It's a very, you know, famously rainy. So it's a famously uh, wet area. So even being on top of the hill does not mean that you are absolutely safe from flooding. But where I'm at, we're pretty unlikely to have any. I know I've got friends here on the hill who have a wetland right behind them, and that can sometimes get marshy or flooded. One of my friends, Dale, one of our friends, uh, had a tree fall down uh, in the big windstorm that happened the other day. They had a dead tree in their front yard, and thankfully, it did not hit their house or their car. It did hit their mailbox, and the mailboxes of everyone else who are their neighbors crushed them entirely and took out their internet and cable, which in these days is a pretty big thing. You need to get the whole thing kind of rewired. Well, the wind came with the rain. It wasn't one of the. We sometimes get really huge windstorms. It wasn't that bad, but it was really blustery. Uh, Sunday night and last night again. Huh. I'm only just now noticing these big tusks that I did not draw in there. Oh well, I think he's fine without the tusks. It's a nice thing about doing this as a cartoon homage. I'm already deciding from the very beginning, based on the fact that it's a cartoon and I'm trying to interpret it, that there are lots of little details which are not going to be there. I'm not going to replicate it one to one. Try and get the feeling, but there's very often someone is looking in detail at one of these pieces that I'm interpreting will be able to find things that are in the original that I just didn't even put in mine. And in this case, those tusks are top of the list. In western Pennsylvania, Michael says the roads necessary to follow the dry paths of old riverbeds. The roads necessarily follow. Yeah, we get a bit of rain. You know, when I was living in mid-state New York, upstate New York, and in northeastern Pennsylvania, yeah, we definitely had the same thing. Roads that follow the path of the mighty Susquehanna and all of the other rivers and waterways. And that just means that you're guaranteed that when a lot of water starts flowing through, those roads are going to flood out. But like I said, my main thought right now, on top of I hope everyone is safe, after everyone is safe, is I'm just glad it's not snow. I grew up in the Northeast. It's not like I can't handle snow, but I don't like it. I didn't like it growing up. I don't like it now, and I'm glad to live somewhere where snow just isn't a thing we usually have to worry about more than a couple of days a year. Shout out to Binghamton, the mighty Susquehanna. I was talking to a friend of mine uh, over the weekend um, about Binghamton and how it's had a couple of different names as a university. Um, when I got there, there were alumni who were very adamant that they did. I went to State University of New York in Binghamton, SUNY Binghamton. But before it had joined the State University system, it had been Harper College. I believe Harper College was a private college before it became part of the university system, and so people who were alumni of Harper College, uh, of the original Harper College, were uh, proud of that fact and adamant about saying it. Yeah, they didn't go to SUNY Binghamton; they went to Harper College. Now, the interesting thing at at SUNY Binghamton, was that they kept the name Harper College for their liberal arts program. So, in fact, I I studied in Harper College. That was the uh, college that I was uh, got my degree through. But it was all part of the University of Binghamton. But now they've gone on and decided they didn't want to be SUNY Binghamton anymore. They are just Binghamton University. But this happened a while ago, and it happened in great part. I'm led to understand because of the fact that the state of New York's cut back on their funding for the SUNY program, and it was easier, or they believed that it would be easier to raise funds, to do fundraising for the university if it didn't say State University of New York. So they changed their name to just Binghamton University, and now it's been that way for a while. There's lots of people who now have graduated from Binghamton University, and I have to list that. If people ask me where I went to school, that's what I have to say if I want anyone in the modern university system to understand what I'm talking about. But now I'm like those people who were saying, yeah, but it was Harper College. And I'm like, yeah, well, I went there. I went to the school. But it was SUNY Binghamton when I was there. It wasn't any Binghamton University. Our mascot was the Colonials, not the Bearcats. Bearcats. Ha! What's wrong with a Colonial? Honestly, it doesn't bother me that much, but it's fun to play outraged. Harper's Ferry Ambulance. That was the student-run ambulance corps. When I was there, my friend and Becky's friend, also Carrie Forrestal, who sometimes shows up here in the chat, was one of the main movers and shakers at the Harper's Ferry Ambulance Corps. There was something I was going to say, and it has now slipped my mind. I got off on that little tangent, and I had a thought in the middle of it, and I thought, I'll come back to it. Right now, it's not coming back. Oh, I remember, I don't know, Becky, if you remember, when they were making the change to Binghamton University and changing from being the mascot being the Colonials, they did a big poll of the alumni to try and figure out what should their new mascot be. And one option was keep it the Colonials, which is the one I voted for, but I knew that I would not be on the winning side on that one. They wound up choosing the Bearcats. They're now the Binghamton Bearcats. And when they announced it, they sent around a they sent around a letter to all the alumni, trying to get us to be excited about the Bearcats, so we would keep donating to the school and such. But they were apparently, my memory is that none of the there wasn't an outright winner. They wound up choosing Bearcats because there were 2 or 3 different options that had equally not quite good enough voting in the polling. But they described the Bearcat as a mythical creature that mixes the best aspects of the bear and a big cat, and it really sounded like a bunch of crap. And then I later went on to find out that there is, in fact, an animal called a bearcat. And it's a nocturnal animal that's very lazy, likes to sleep all the time, doesn't like to come out. I saw it I learned this at a visit to the San Diego Zoo, and you know the all the signage was saying you probably won't see it because it likes to stay inside its cave all day and only come out at night. And I thought, in the end, that's a pretty good mascot for the college I went to, or for the people that I went to college with. The Binghamton Colonials had a it's kind of a guy in a tricorn hat was the and a green and white were the school's colors. So there's a guy in a tricorn cap with a cloak. That was our mascot. And you know what? I actually thought it was pretty cool. The thing about Binghamton when I went there was that it was a NCAA Division III school. We didn't have much in the way of sports. We didn't have a football team. We had a basketball team. We did pretty well in hockey, but it wasn't even a varsity sport. That was a club. The school didn't have facilities for them, but they were one of the best teams that we had. And, this Bearcat thing aside, the biggest thing I didn't like about the decision that was made during that time to become Binghamton University was that they pushed very hard and got Binghamton to become a Division I school so that it could play Division I sports. Still don't have a football team, which is fine by me, but the basketball team had the chance to get into things like the NCAA tournament, March Madness tournament, which they've done a grand total of twice in the 25 or 30 years since they made that decision. And also, when I went there, when the idea of sports came up, the talking point was that Binghamton was an academic institution. It was constantly ranked among the top 15 or 20 state schools in the country. And they had a lot of well-regarded faculty, famous academicians and research scientists, things like that. And I was okay with that. I was, rather than having a sports team that sometimes, might go to a tournament or get coverage on on ESPN 15, I was okay with the school what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of clinging close to its academic side. But of course, that doesn't raise the money that sports does. And this whole thing was about, and rightly so, the school needs money to get by, and if the state's not going to provide all that it needed, they needed to find a way to do it. But this whole kind of going for the Division I sports never really sat well with me, and it turned out to be a really big mistake because they went on basketball. They leaned hard on basketball, and they got a coach who had won, taken some other small college and turned their program around and made them something. Um, but he got into some trouble uh, with the academic side. Just all the things that you hear about colleges doing, where the athletes were given priorities and not having to live up to all the same requirements that the regular students do, and having lesser academic standards because they were good athletes. And that was one of the promises the school made when this whole thing started up, that they would not sacrifice the quality of Binghamton's reputation and their standing as an elite academic university. And then the basketball coach got caught uh, pressuring some of the academic professors to give their players better scores so they could keep playing. And it became something of a scandal. And the guy had to resign. In fact, the president of the university, who had overseen this whole thing, wound up having to resign over it. And so all the people who pushed so hard to make Binghamton University the Bearcats and get the sports teams going, they didn't last very long at all. And the school is now just left with bad, well, it's, I don't want to say bad, that understandably not nationally competitive sports teams, and Bearcats as their mascot, and they're back to just being kind of like mostly known for their academics. Except they're Bearcats, not Colonials. That's probably more than you guys ever really wanted to know about Binghamton. But I'll tell you what, I love my time there. The people I met, the friendships I made, what I learned, what I did. It was, it made me the Stan I am today. Let's see what's going on here. Dale says went to the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. And the only sports team the school didn't have was a lacrosse team. Lacrosse is one of those sports that was really big on Long Island, where I grew up. And in some of the states in the universities and schools in the Northeast. It's a heck of a sport, that lacrosse. It's funny because I've talked to other people since, and people out here in the Pacific Northwest who really, they just don't even understand. Like, what is it? I don't get it. There, I was going to say was, it probably still is, an indoor lacrosse league, National Indoor Lacrosse League. And Seattle had a very good team for a number of years. They were the national champs a couple of years in a row, but no one knew about it because no one cared uh, about lacrosse. And in fact, they they were listed as a Seattle team, but they actually played their games in Everett, which is a city about or yeah, small city about 45 minutes north of downtown Seattle, half an hour, 45 minutes north. So no one in Seattle proper even knew that they had a lacrosse team, let alone a national championship winning lacrosse team. Michael says lacrosse is weird because it's a Native American sport that's played by waspy New Englanders. Well, you're not wrong. All right. Here, you know what? I'm going to go back to this sketch for a second here. Because I want to make that bird look a little more crow-like than it is. I have trouble with this, and I do. There have been some other times people have asked me to draw crows or corvids, and I just don't have trouble getting the the head right. Tail isn't right either. It's still not there. I don't know. I don't know what it is I'm not seeing. It's a little better. That's one of the things about drawing. I often talk about is it's about it's not about getting it right. It's about getting it wrong in a way that doesn't draw attention to itself. That people, the audience looks at and they just say, yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's that's more Corvidy. The question is, what am I going to do with the eyes? I can run with that. How many layers am I using for this piece? Well, I think it's just going to be two main layers. I think I'm going to put all of the characters here on a single layer, and then there'll be the background layer. But it's not, so that's just for the lines. Right? And when it's coming to do the coloring, when I do the coloring, so usually, since you asked, usually I've got the lines for a character on one layer, and then I do flat colors underneath that layer, and between the two I do a highlight layer or a shading layer, which allows me to play around with things without interfering with the lines or the colors. Now, depending on the character, I will sometimes add in effects layers too if I want some kind of uh, fade or glow. That'll wind up being another layer. So most often when you see a drawing by me, uh, the the characters will have 3 to 4 layers, and then the background itself will be similar. It will be a lines layer and flat colors and shading. But more on the background is more often to have extra layers. So, like in this case, I will let me turn off this so we can look at that and just create a layer. So I'm going to do a layer that has that basically, and that'll be the lines layer. There'll be a flat layer underneath it and a shading layer. But this whole background area, I'm going to leave. That's going to be a separate layer behind it, because then I can do something. If you look here, we see that gradient, that white up to dark blue gradient on the original. So I'll do that behind it. And very often in some of these paintings that have a lot of complexity, I'm just noticing this other mountain that I didn't notice before. See? So I may do that as a separate layer. We'll see. I'm not sure about that yet. Got to think about that. But backgrounds very often will have more layers than the characters. The characters I almost always can get done in about somewhere 3 to 5 layers, and backgrounds very often will have 8 or 9 layers. Yeah. Sometimes a lot more. Sometimes I will do a bunch of them and then group them together so they're done on separate layers, but then once they're finished, they don't have to live on separate layers, and I flatten them up. But that's the answer. How many layers we're doing here? There's not a lot of overlap between our characters, between the good guy side and the bad guy side, whichever one you're going to consider good or bad. There are times when I might do the individual characters separately. Like I might do the warrior and the wolf on one layer and the dwarf on another if I thought I could reuse them or I wanted to move them around the piece. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. The ones with the Michael says the when I did the homage for the age system, the fantasy age, where we had a fight happening on a stairway with a city in the background. There were a lot of layers in that. Suppose I could pull that up. We could look at that. Take a little break from this and come over here and look at this drawing here. So, see all of these groups. When I do something with a lot of layers, I'll then group them so I can turn them on and off. So these are our 2 lizard people in the front. It's just that group, but that group has 3 layers in it, kind of like I was saying. And then we've got our 2 heroes, and that layer that group has 5 layers in it, just for these 2. And then the next layer up is, so I did, in order to get a good feeling of depth. I talk about this sometimes too. That's sometimes when I'll give things different layers so I can treat them a little differently and create that sensation. So in this case, the buildings and sidewalk up front are a whole group on their own, and they have 5 layers. And then the backdrop there with our guy, the second set of buildings is its own group, and it has 2, 3, 4, 5 layers, 6 layers of its own. Right? Is that? No, that's a separate layer. So what? We had 6 there, and five there. There's 11 layers, and another 5 layers. There's 16 layers, and another 3, 19 layers. I put my signature on its own layer, so I can take it in and out and change its color without affecting anything else. So there's 20 layers, and then the very backdrop is 1 layer, but it had been 3 each of those colors in this backdrop. So that was the blue, the light blue in the background. The next it's 2, 3, 4, plus the lights were their own layers. So that had been 5 layers, but because it's such a small part of it, I condensed that down to 1. So really, when drawing this, it was 26 layers. 26 layers to get it done, minimum. So yeah, hope that answers your question in at least moderately interesting way. All right, he's definitely looking more crow-like here. And a friend once asked me to do a drawing for them that they are their spirit animal, as it were, is a kestrel, kind of hawk. But there are a couple of different kinds of kestrels, and I was having a very hard time getting the hawky kestrel. I wound up drawing the other kind, and they were well, I mean, they were thankful for what I did, right? But it didn't turn out to be useful to them. All right, now I'm thinking about that, whether I want to put that dwarf on a separate layer. I can look up. Yeah, no, the app will tell me how many layers I've used and how many I have left. I suppose I could have done that with that other one. We come over here and look at the canvas. Look at canvas information and say layers. Layers used 5. Layers available 317. I won't use 317. That's the kind of thing people who are doing painterly, more realistic, or pieces that are supposed to look like oil paintings or rich, detailed watercolors. They are more likely to have to use up those dozens or hundreds of layers. I think I am going to put this dwarf on a separate layer. He may not stay there, but I think I'm going to start him there. I often say on the Thursday show when I'm getting into doing a drawing that you should start with the part you have the most confidence in. Not all this. I've come to think that that's kind of not even the right way to say that. It's a part that that the rest of the drawing is going to be built around. In this case, for him, that's his nose. If I get that right, and the rest of it can be built around it. You think it's a raven? No? That makes sense. This being the Northlands with kind of a Norse/Viking-esque feeling to it, ravens are pretty appropriate. That's what Odin had, ravens. According to legend. Not sure about this hand here. So I've been working on, among other things, maybe it's time to talk about my calendar. Last year I did a Kickstarter for a calendar, and I think the folks in this room know it already, but yeah, I did I can grab it over here. Pull it off the wall, and this was the calendar from this year, the 50 Years in the Dungeon 2025 wall calendar. And I ran a Kickstarter to fund it. And it was successful, clearly, because it's out there, and there are people who have it on their walls and have had for the whole of the year. But it was not wildly successful, and running a Kickstarter takes a lot of time and effort. And particularly at this time of year, if it wasn't going to pay off in a significant way, it just was something that I had to look askance at. And so I decided that I was not going to do a Kickstarter this year. And as a result, that I was not going to do a calendar for 2026. But and several people asked me about it, and I told them no calendar this year, and I explained why. But as we got here towards the end of the year, and I was looking over at my wall next to my desk where the calendar was, and I was thinking, got all this art. I really have enjoyed. Now, I don't put a lot of my own art. I don't frame my own art and hang it on the wall. Um, I've kind of enjoyed having my my drawings on the wall all year, and you know, I've got all these pieces that would make very nice calendar drawings. I wonder what it would cost if I just went to one of those sites that craftspeople go to and get a calendar made just for me. And I looked, and those sites are very expensive. People people who do calendars, who do crafting, are willing. That's their hobby, and they're willing to spend a bunch of money on it, as they should. But I didn't. I didn't want to do that, and in fact, I knew how much it cost me to get the calendar made this year. And I thought, if I can get it the price around the same, I'd make a calendar. It doesn't take me that long. The actual putting together of the calendar, the laying out and getting the files together, that wasn't the hard part. It was the kickstarting, it was the fundraising. That was the hard part. So I went and I checked with the people that had printed the calendar last year what it would cost if I just wanted to make maybe just one. If I just want to make one for me, or just a few, maybe give them away as presents. And it turns out, and because I'm working with not something that's trying to make money off the crafting industry, but is a digital printer who's making their money as a digital printer, and it's in their best interest to have their prices reasonable or as reasonable as possible, that I could get, even if I only wanted to print the one for me, I could get it for about the same price that I would have to pay to buy someone else's calendar. So I decided to do it. And so, if you've been following my social media this past week, you have seen that, and I think I talked about it on the show last week, that I'm doing a 2026 calendar with art from the show. And since I was doing it anyway, and the price was not the problem, I threw it open for folks who want to get it, which includes you. You can order you have to pre-order, though. I'm not going to overprint. I'm not going to try and sell them. I'm not opening up a storefront for it. I'm just announcing it on my social media and here on my shows that I'm doing it. And if you reach out to me and you want to send me through PayPal, it's $25 for the calendar and $10 for shipping, because shipping ain't cheap. And the main reason I do that is because I want to have something that's easy for me and gives insurance in case anything happens, and that's why it's $10. Because I could find a cheaper way to do it, but the insurance and the me not having to go to the post office multiple times during holiday season are the main reasons why my shipping is what it is. But yeah, it's $25 plus $10 shipping, or $25 for it. you can, if you want multiple calendars, you can. There's $25 a piece. So $10, I can, unless you're ordering like 15, 20 calendars, I can get all that in the same $10 shipping fee. So that'll be the same. Yeah. So calendar happening, but you have to get your pre-order into me by Sunday this week because um, that's when I'm on Monday. I'm gonna hit the print order to tell the printer go. This is how many I want. There we go. It's looking all right. That little dwarf. Now I'm trying to decide the thing about whether I think here's a thing where I'm going to draw on separate layers and then merge them. I don't want to. Let me turn off the dwarf for a second. I don't want to draw this full wolf. This hind end of the wolf is going to be a pain in the posterior, as it were. I don't want to draw it. But if I draw it on a separate layer right now and I merge them, then I can not have to worry about the dwarf lines. Yeah, the wolf is another thing. Like the raven, that's not a particularly good wolf. Let's go back and work on that sketch a little. Yeah, so like I say, the calendar's happening. If you want to get one, you are welcome to drop me an email or a don't leave it as a comment here. That I'm always talking about making comments here. That I do. I want you to leave comments here, but uh, not for the calendar. Drop me a message on social media or an email or something like that. I will tell you then where to send the money, and if you do that, I will uh, print a calendar and send it to you. If you'd like, I will email. I'll autograph it. If you don't want me to, I won't. That snout is still a little weird. There we go. Okay. That's what I'm going to draw. It's about to say why Matthew would owe me a Coke, but it's not me. I have to keep up with what's going on in the chat. was it's always a fun challenge to figure out what to put in the calendar, what pieces of art to use. It's uh, you know, I only got 12 pieces, and I have more than 12 pieces that I like. And trying to make them so that they fit uh, thematically, so we get something spooky for Halloween season for October, something that feels summery, has the right vibe. Now, as you see, I'm drawn here, but the dwarf is actually on its own layer. So if I accidentally draw like that, it doesn't affect the dwarf at all. And then I'm going to combine them back into one layer, I think, when I'm done. Sunsteel says make an 18-month calendar, 24-month. Yeah. Well, but that'll then I won't be able to sell another one next year. It's a 13th month calendar actually, so it goes through January of the following year. Um, and I suppose I could make an 18-month calendar, but the I was just saying that I have a lot more pieces that I like. I want to be. What about the drawings that I'm going to do over this coming year that I like? I want to be able have a chance to include them. If I do an 18-month calendar, it's going to be a year and a half before I can start putting another one together. Looking at the cover, for some reason, she the way the painting. I think this is just the way the shading worked out. But when I look at her in a mid-size, she looks like she's looking down at the wolf, not over at the ogre troll giant thing she's fighting. The other thing I have going on this time of year is, of course, my holiday cards. I send out year-end cards. They're not usually associated with a particular holiday. If it is, it's usually, although they'll often have Christmassy trappings in the images. but they're not Christmas cards. If anything, they're New Year's cards, because with the cards, I send each year a 3-inch sticker associated with um, the Lunar New Year for the coming year, whatever the lunar animal is. Um, it kind of a way for me to send a card and something that feels a little bit like a present without having to go spend all the money. I can send it then to more people than my budget could hold if I was doing more presenty presents. There's a weird thing that I know a lot of artists struggle with is uh, the idea of stuff with my art being a present. Uh, I think in the end we come to accept, or most of us come to accept, the fact that people do value them enough that they are presents. But sometimes I feel just like, wow, it's like I'm cheaping out. Everyone else is going and buying something, and I'm just taking a drawing I did. Well, paying money to do it, but it's relatively small. Kind of like, as they're saying, the price for the calendar, right? I can get this done for the same price that I'd have to pay someone else to do it, or to pay for someone else's version. So therefore, it's kind of like a present. Anyway, so it's important with holiday stuff to get it mailed out early, don't you know? We all know that um, end of year struggle to get the cards out. I know a lot of people who struggle with that. And this year I didn't have a good idea for what to put on my card. Some years I have a sketch that's sitting around. I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is it for sure. And some years I have to sit down and work on it. And some years I forget to sit down and work on it. That's what this year was. I kept putting it off. I started thinking about it in October when you should. Um, I'm not saying everyone should, but that's when you're someone that works in publishing, you've got to be thinking months ahead of time if you want to get something published and ready to sell at the appropriate time. You can't be doing it. You can't be doing your uh, Halloween drawings and Halloween merchandise in October. You've got to be doing it in August so you have time to print it and get it ready so it's available for sale in October. So my whole career I have thought about these things in advance, right? In fact, thinking about it in October for holiday season is really too late. Uh, that's when you want to be starting to sell. You want to be starting putting things on sale in late October so that people can buy them in early November and get them in time to use them in December around the holidays. But of course, my cards and stickers are not. They're for me, So it gives me a lot more leeway in the calendar. But I do start to think about it. I like to have it figured out by, in a perfect world, I'd like to have it figured out by election day so that I can get the printing started, and then hopefully get the materials back from the printers around Thanksgiving, and then right after Thanksgiving I can start sending stuff out. But this year I forgot. I put it off. I thought about it and then didn't do it and put it off. And it got really late in the year. I did the New Year's sticker drawing pretty early. I think it was early November, but it was in November, but it was early November. And I still couldn't come up with what I wanted for the card. And because that wasn't done, I put off ordering the sticker. Eventually I realized I need to put the sticker order in, and I need to figure out what I'm doing for my card. And so right around Thanksgiving I was freaking out about that. I wound up putting in the sticker order just before Thanksgiving, or right at Thanksgiving. And I also put in my order for stamps. Gotta have a bunch of stamps. We don't, with the digital world we live in, we don't have a lot of stamps just sitting around our houses these days. So I had to order the stamps. Anyway, I did all that. And then I figured out what my card would be. After all that, I'd already finished with the sticker, and I'd sent the sticker off to press, and I'd looked at the stamps and put in an order, and then I finally figured out what I wanted my card to be. It turns out it was a piece of art I had around anyway. I didn't have to actually draw anything. I just had to make a few small changes, tweaks to a piece of art I had lying around, and I could have used, if I thought of that, if I'd known that's what I was going to use, I could have sent it off to the printer really early, because the art was there. Anyway, I was worried about whether the cards would come quickly enough. You know, once the postage and the stickers arrived, it's like, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to want to go. And how much longer am I going to have to wait for the cards beyond that? Turns out, the people that do the stickers are super swamped, and it took them a really long time to get my order printed and shipped. In fact, it only just shipped this week. And the post office where I ordered the stamps from, they went pretty quick, but it also was a good half week between when I put my order in and when they told me it had shipped. And I kept thinking, well, that's no problem, because the cards are going to take a long time to get here. And then, for some reason, this first time in a while. Oh no, it's the second time last few years that I've done the cards through Vistaprint, and they turned that around and sent it out, and I didn't pay for fast shipping because it was very expensive. But for some reason, they sent it to me, and it arrived in a day and a half. And so I've had my cards now for a week or more. And the stamps just arrived today, and the stickers aren't going to arrive, I don't know, another week. So despite having put everything off the way I did, I've got the cards, I've got the stamps, and now I'm waiting on the stickers. All right, so that's looking good. Let me turn off the background and the sketches. I think we need to thicken up these lines some. One of the ways that you convey how close or far something is in a line drawing like this is how thick the line work is. Not just close or far, but give it a feeling of power and importance. It's not right. Sometimes see that I will take the outside lines and make them thicker than the inside lines a little bit for just that. I can keep the inside detail lines a little lighter. Or where here, these, how do I make it clear that this knife isn't just part of her outfit? Just give that line a little extra weight, and it increases the awareness that it's a separate thing, a separate item with a weight of its own. All right, I'm going to come back to this guy too and do the same thing a little bit. Gotta be careful. I need him to, despite the fact that he's bigger, I need to use the same line weight because he's living in the same world. Just because he's bigger doesn't mean that he's got more physical presence, more, doesn't take up more. The texture of his, he still feels like he's of the uh, same physical substance as the smaller creatures. Mm. There we go. It's looking pretty good. You know, I was looking at the. Thank you, Matty. Matty says he likes the expression of the troll that I captured the ferocity. You know what? I captured the ferocity, but I look at it and I go, yeah, I definitely changed some things, though. Again, like we were talking about at the beginning, and you weren't here for this, Matthew, but you know, part of making it an homage is changing some details and making it my own, but still trying to capture the spirit of the original. And by you saying that, Matthew, I feel that I've done a good job of that. I've definitely changed some details, but if it feels like I've captured that same ferocity, then that's what I was trying to do. I'll turn the background on again. All right, I'm going to pause here. Just a little pause. Sunsteel says, I can't remember the last time I bought a stamp. What are they now? 78 cents? Yes, they are. And I bought a bunch. You know what? Here, I'll show you what stamps I bought. Because I like to buy fun stamps rather than just the usual ones. So I've got some left over from last year. Got some Roy Lichtenstein stamps that I bought for last year. Um, I've got a couple of others. Yeah. So there was Jeopardy themed stamps, and of course the Dungeons and Dragons. Oh look, there's only one stamp left on the Dungeons and Dragons one. So what did I buy this year? Well, I got a couple of sheets of Keith Haring drawing of love. And I got these a couple of years ago too. There's a Buzz Lightyear stamps. Those are fun. I got some more of the Jeopardy stamps. I now got a full rack of those to go. And of course, I I got some more of the D&D stamps. Got to make sure I keep those. I've got plenty of D&D stamps. In fact, I've got even more than this, so I could save some in my archives. But part of the fun for me in doing doing my card mailing is when I write all the cards and I have the envelope sitting there ready to they're addressed and just need to be stamped. And my last step is to what stamp should I put on that person? Should I give them a Jeopardy? They like D&D. They like it. They like but they're a puzzle person. I'm going to give them a Jeopardy stamp. Or certainly D&D. Which D&D piece am I going to give to that person? Little game I play with myself, which probably wastes more time. I'm not even sure how many people even notice. In fact, I bet most of them don't pay at all attention to what stamps are on the envelopes that I've sent them. But I do. It means something to me. Ay, 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 ay. All right. Let's come back here. Now, so I was trying to figure out, should I draw the background or start to color the characters? And I think I'm going to draw the background. So here, I'm here and I'm gonna create a group with the characters in them. Oh, you know what? I don't. So right now, I've got. Let's go in. I was talking about this. I put the dwarf on a separate layer so that I could draw and not worry about interfering with them. But right now, I'm gonna merge those two layers into one. So now all of the characters are on one layer. And I'm going to create a second layer, and I'm going to lock this layer right now. I can still unlock it, but now that's going to keep me from doing inadvertently drawing on that layer or erasing things. So in that group, we've got the lines layer and what will be the flat colors. But I'm going to turn them off. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to do the drawing on the background. I'm going to do the drawing here with the usual black line art, but when all is said and done, I'm going to end up changing that black to another color. We're looking at that drawing of the city the staircase with the heroes fighting the lizard people, and that was a pretty good example of how I will keep the characters with a solid black line and then use a lighter color for the lines that are the background. And that helps to, that's one of the things that can help to create that feeling of depth instead of it just being, sometimes when you've got lines, the line thickness is one thing you can do, and the other thing is change the color. Let's go back and I'll show you that. So see, if I zoom in here, you can see that the characters, both the lizard people and the heroes, use black lines to do that. Are all the stamps I have? Yeah, all the stamps I bought are forever stamps, which is great. And as you see, that line thickness, see, I used a much thicker line for the, not so thick that it shouts it, like you wouldn't immediately say, oh my god, what did you use, a Sharpie on those? But if we zoom in and look at it, you can definitely see that the line I used for particularly the outline of the lizard people, is thicker, and that helps to give them the feeling of being in front. But the other thing you may notice as I zoom in here is that the line for the buildings, the background, is not black at all. That's blue. I picked blue because it's part of the rest of the coloring, but it's not black. It's a dark color, so it still looks like line work, but it's lighter than black, so it feels a little further away. And if I zoom in here, you can see that, remember I turned the layers on and off? The front layer has a darker blue than the layer behind it, which again helps to create that feeling of it being further away. But when I drew them all just that coloration effect on the background layers is something I add later. I do the drawing itself just with the black, so that I'm worried about getting the detail right, the line right, and then I use the color later. Now here, if we look at the stones, I'm going to draw all these lines in black, but everything that's supposed to be a carving is going to be that some lighter version of whatever the stone color is. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make the snow line, the horizon snow line, a blue color. Probably a pretty light blue. So Michael says the next time I do a coloring page, you're going to print it at 50% so you can do things like that. Yeah, that would be fun. I encourage you to do that. And I've been thinking about coloring pages again because I do all of my artwork this way. I think that in the new year, I'm much more frequently going to make coloring book versions of my drawings available. Um, Probably most frequently for members of my Patreon community, but I think for everyone. Just going to release more and more of them. And I don't know, maybe start putting some for sale. I was talking to another artist, Chet Minton, Minton, Chet Minton, um, and he has an Etsy shop with pretty much, oh, I don't know if it's all he does, but a lot of what he does are just coloring pages, and we were talking about that at Game Hall Con, and it's been on my list since I came back to spend some time looking at what he does and how it works, because I mean, for by his description, it's not break the bank money. It's not earn your living money, but it's good uh, you know it's a good pizza money. There's steady sales. People come and they look for coloring pages. All right, there's not a lot here. I think I'm going to do a second layer of line work for what's going to wind up being the etching, so that I don't have to worry about them crossing over with the lines for the rocks and the horizon. I also want to look at this mountain I discovered. See if I want to work that in somehow. Comic book artists do it. Could sell prints at cons. I've done coloring books that I've sold, and I still do because I've got leftovers of just about all of them. I did that Olympics theme, that Fantasy Olympics theme thing I did. I wound up kickstarting and a color art book and a coloring book where I use the same art without the the colorization. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Got to remember, as I'm doing things on different layers, that these little lines here are supposed to go on the snow, and right now I'm drawing on the layer of the etchings. So if I want those lines to be in the snow, I have to draw it on the snow layer. Got to keep track of that. Coloring book or pages might attract additional viewers to the show. That's true. That's another thing. Um, it's a whole different audience. And if I get a different audience, I could do a separate show that's just about that. I like doing these things. I wouldn't mind if something was so popular that it was worth having its own show too. And then Chris Andrews says, "I never noticed the lines in the rock. I can't unsee them." Yeah. Michael says, I mention that all the time. Yeah, doing these drawings, doing these homages, definitely, I'm constantly finding things that I'd never seen before in pieces of art that I have loved for years. And this is a new piece of art, so I haven't been staring at it for years. But, as I say, I did this whole thing, and it's not until drawing tonight that I noticed this mountain in the background. And it was while I was drawing originally that I noticed the carvings on the rocks. There have been a bunch of the drawings I've done over the years. Like I say, pieces of art that I've been looking at since the 1980s when the books first came out. And I loved them. The classic pieces. And I wanted to draw them because I loved them so much. And then while drawing them, I noticed things I'd never seen before. I think I've talked about this. Maybe I talked about this more on the other show. One of the things that I've always been fascinated by is in something like this, a cartoon line drawing, finding a way to have something that it, like these etchings on the rock, this is a drawing within a drawing. and how do I represent it so it's not going to have the same level of reality that the the creatures that are like, this is different because these are clearly pictographs. But if like, for example, there have been times where I've wanted to draw a painting in the background in a drawing, a cartoon drawing, and finding the way to, in something which is already representational and can't think of the word I'm trying to think of right now, but simplified and iconicized, but that's supposed to be the real world. That's where those characters live. So what does a painting or something that is itself simplified or iconicized within the world, how do you draw that? Got a world which we've already reduced to 2 dimensions, but within that world, but it's supposed to be a 3-dimensional world to the people living it. How did What does a painting, something which is a 2-dimensional drawing to them, look like in their world, so that you, the reader, me, the artist or the reader, can look at it and say, yes, that is not a character. That's a painting of a character. I find it a fascinating idea to roll around, and a difficult artistic struggle when I've tried to do it. I give it more thought, I think, than most viewers do. I've never, you know what? I should probably bring this up for a conversation with some of my artist friends. I don't know. I don't know what they think about it. Now, someone like John Kovalik, who does a, even, if anything, even more stylized world than I draw. More stylized characters, uh, closer to Charles Schultz in the level of detail, but their world is real. But music's a very big part of his life and career, and so very often in his cartoons there will be posters in the background, and he literally uses scans of the real life poster. So it'll be a poster of real people in this world where all the people are Kabbalic people, and I find it fascinating to when he does that. That's a very legitimate answer to that this question that I'm raising. How do you do it? Well, you just do that, or do you do an even more stylized half drawing um, of the cover of the poster? All right, let's put our people back on, and now it looks all confusing because color is supposed to separate everything. And I want to look at this and see. I'm going to come back to the sketch layer, and let me see if I turn. I want to group those two. grab this purple because I'm going to draw something else in the background. Do I want to put a mountain I think I do. I think that really helps this piece. All right. But I'm going to do this on a whole separate layer, so Again, it's a level I don't want to put too much detail on this. It's also gonna fade very much into the background. Yeah, how did I not see that before? How did I not see that before? As you say, Michael, yeah, the troll is blocking them, but it really does help. And here, the troll and the logo are blocking it. But still, how did I look at this for as long as I did and not notice those mountains? I don't know. I don't know how it happened. All right, so we're going to turn off that. We're going to come back to this layer, and we are going to add even one more layer in there, and that's where we're going to draw this mountain. So it's going to have its own layer, or its own set of layers. It's probably going to have 3 layers of its own. This will be where the mountain and the sky is going to live on this layer. But I'm already thinking one of the things we look at that the mountain is just there's almost no detail, right? It's just color. It's the blue that represents the white of the snow and the dark blue that represents the shadow. I have to add a little more than that on, not a lot. Now, here's where I want to make sure that where I'm adding the detail are places that it's going to be seen. What else do I want to add here? What else do I want to add? So I'm looking here and I'm thinking that the rock that the troll is leaning on now, given just the little bits of detail I've added on other layers, tells me that I need to add a little bit extra on here. Not a lot. Again, the reason is that not having it there is drawing attention to it. There we go. Troll reminds me of the good old days when trolls used to attack. You used to attack you with 3D bludgeoning damage and regeneration abilities instead of hiding behind the internet. Yeah, well, there's something to be said for this kind of troll that you can face with a sword and a bow and arrow. Yeah. Teach me how to draw a mountain. I have mini landscape mountains to paint. All right, well, here, I can do that. Let me turn off the troll. So, mountains. Let me create a whole new layer. Let's turn off all these other things. So, when you're a kid and you're drawing mountains, you just are drawing we got mountains, and maybe you give them a little snow. The reason that works is it's a simplification of what we see. Mountains are roughly triangular. The older the mountain is, the more it's going to be rounded out, but it's going to be roughly triangular. And the more detail you want, the more you want it to be exciting. Maybe you have multiple triangles building together. But then, what you want to do, as with I talk about this on a lot of drawings, decide where the light's coming from, and pick the side that's going to be in shadow. And then you create a second ridge. There's a part that's behind it gets the same kind of treatment as the outside. And then for the details, make sure you follow the lines that you've already put in. So once you've decided where those shadows are, put them on every ridge. And then you're probably mostly going to want to deal with one side. The more details you put in, the more confusing it gets. But mostly I try to get a little bit of detail, and there's a couple of horizontal lines to show breaks. Because what a mountain isn't is just a pyramid, just a cube, right? This has details all over it. It's got these secondary peaks which I put in there, and so to create the idea of this is where the mountain, instead of coming up in a smooth upward, it goes up a bit and then in a bit and up a bit and in a bit, and that's how it gets that roughly triangular shape. So I use these little horizontal lines to say, okay, this is a part where the mountain is getting thinner. And with just that, you can get a pretty good basic basic mountain. As we zoom in here, we can see that that's kind of what's going on. Rather than just be two colors, though, you can see it, we've got gradation. So you still have the that it comes up, and there's a part that's really dark, but then there's this secondary part which is fading from the light to the darkness, or is sometimes just an intermediary color. So let's see. Let me do this with a blue. I'm going to grab a dark blue for doing the lines. And that same dark blue is going to be the darkest shadow. I'm realizing I'm making my life very difficult in that I make process videos out of these files, and all of this drawing is now going to be in that video. I'm going to have to cut it out. But you can have a lesser version of that there, and maybe even a lesser version of that there. And the same thing, anywhere you've got you're showing the edge of one of the triangles, do that. Chris says it's something how the human eye works. Just a few lines with a pen, and just a few lines, and it looks like a three-dimensional mountain. Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of like I talk about that on the Thursday show a lot, right? You if you can figure out a couple of these little tricks, and you can do these pretty simple things. You want the viewer's eye to do the work for you. Hello, Linnea. So there we go. That is our impromptu mountain lesson. Does that get you what you were hoping to get, Michael? I have irregular wooden block pyramids. It's a detail I'd like to add to each facet. Well, hopefully that helps out with that. At the very least, it hopefully gives you a starting place for figuring out. And you know what? The thing, all of these things that I'm teaching you are things that I played around with and have come to this particular answer. None of them were specifically taught to me. None of them are, I think, exactly what other artists do. Everyone will find their own ways to to approach it, and you play around with it, and you find a way that works for you. All right, let's see. I think so. This went pretty quickly. So very often on these work in progress, it takes me. I spend in 2.5 or 3 hours here to get to this stage. The question is, do I keep going, do some coloring, or do I call it a night and head off into the ether? Are you guys still up for hanging around some more, or are you ready to wrap it up? And it's you're in Pittsburgh time zone there, Michael, and people are all over the place. Turn off the backgrounds again and look at. Yeah, I think this is looking good. Interestingly, I'm supposed to have lunch with Wolfgang Bauer, the head kobold, the kobold in chief, tomorrow. So I'll probably bring this around and show it to him. Michael says, "I'm in. I'm in for the haul." All right. Well, let's do a little more. I want to wrap up a few other. So if I come back and look, right now there are 4 unfinished drawings as we head towards the end of the year. My goal at one point had been to, by New Year's, catch up, and that's not happening. I'm not getting all 4 of these done in the next 21 days. At least that seems highly unlikely. Yo, you've got lots of puns, Michael? Well, then we'd better keep going. If you're Matthew Snow, you got to head out. That's all right. Thank you for popping in. It's been good to see you. Thank you for joining. Oop. Spam. Come on. There we go. So, yeah. So, I want to get another few finished. I'd like to start the new year with as close to a completed completed folder as possible. So yeah, let's do some coloring here. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to the color layer here with this group. And I'm going to lay in flat colors. So let's see. That's an interesting flesh tone. It's not regular flesh tone. It's not standard kind of pinky Caucasian flesh tone, but it is sort of that. Grab here. It's a little redder, so I'm going to move this over red, and we're going to a little brown. Let's see, how does that look? And this is the kind of thing you do, you play around, you try something out, see if it works. So I'm just going to fill a bunch of this space with that color. That might do. And what I'll do in situations like this is I'll fill this rough shape, and then if I don't like the color, I can play around with different versions of it, and it will. But I think I'm liking this. But what I want to compare it to is when I put the colors in on the humans, how do they compare? Yeah, I like that. That'll do. Now I'm going to come in and fill in the spaces up to the lines. Now I do a pretty good job of closing off all these shapes so they're closed shapes. So I could there's a thing I usually tell people to do things smarter than the way I do them. I have ways I do it out of habit like this. But uh, I don't know what I'm talking about something that I don't want to do, so I'm going to stop talking about it. La la la. Pay no attention to me. Well, I mean, pay attention to me, but don't pay attention to that last thing I said. And I'm going to color. I often, when I'm doing this, I color over the places that are supposed to end up being white, because then I'm reminded that I need to go in and make them white. Uh, I've talked about this before a fair bit, right? If you're doing digital drawing and you want something to have the color white in it, make sure you go and add in. You have to put the white there. Otherwise, it's not white. It it looks white because that's what the background color is. But if you turn off the background color, you see that it's not white. It's just whatever happens to be in the background, which is fine if you're printing on white paper. But uh, if you are, or using a digital, um, any kind of digital background where white is the default. But if you don't go in and put the white in there where you want the color white to be, then if you print it on a piece of paper which is off-white, then all the whites on your drawing are going to be off-white. And if you print it on any kind of colored paper, you print it on blue paper, then everywhere you think is white is suddenly going to be blue. So it's an important habit to get into in your digital drawing. If you want a part of your drawing to appear white, take the time to make it white. I've got a bone to pick with you. You're right. You were absolutely right. You have more puns. Alright, so let's go in and grab some white and do that. We're going to make the eyes white and make the teeth white. And remember, this is the flat color. I'm going to add shading on all of these to... these teeth are going to wind up being yellowed and not so pure white. But here's the other thing I do, like the bone. Could have shown you that. It's hard. It's hard to color white on white. So either I need to turn the background off, or which makes it a little difficult. Pardon me, because you can't see as clearly when the background's off. You can't see the lines as clearly. Or I color in like these bits of bone and snow. I'm going to color them in green and make sure that the color doesn't touch the other color because of the way Procreate works. I'm going to make it all green, and then I'm going to swap out the green for white. Oops. But because it didn't touch entirely, and now if I turn off the background, I can see that there's a space that I need to fill in. And places where I went too far, I can clean up. Like that. The bone is a little, yeah, the bones will get some, this bone. So part of the challenge here that I have as a cartoonist is that the painters are dealing with real world color, and because of shading and distance and whatever, you wind up with things like the what we look at this mountain and say, yes, that's snow, therefore I know it's white. But the color it's painted is blue. It's blue, blue, blue. And the color that this bone is brown at best, a light tan. But I want it to look like a bone in my cartoon, in my very simplified color. So I'm often picking colors that are very different from what the actual painting has. But when people look at the finished piece, I very rarely get comments saying, "Well, that's not the color it is," because it's a color that your brain interprets it in. Same thing we were talking about uh, earlier about getting the brain to interpret what you want it to do. Guy, in theory, could make the horns on his head also white, but I think that those don't look at all like uh, they should be to me. Creative decision. All right, let's see. Yeah. Again, I pick the color that I think will work, and I put a little bit of it down, and then make a judgment as to whether or not it's working the way I want it to, or if I want to switch it up. But that is working the way I want it to. So that's going to be the color for most of his hair. So I talked a little bit earlier about my tradition of holiday card sending and such, which is something that used to be much just more common than it is anymore these days. Um, do any of you send out holiday cards? And if so, where do you get them? Where do you go shopping for your holiday cards? I, at one point earlier in the year, was planning on um, selling some of my holiday card designs, probably doing a Kickstarter for it. The timing didn't work out. In fact, I may well have mentioned it here and said that I was going to do it, and it had been my plan, but the timing didn't work out. And as I say, those are the kind of things that you need to do in October or November if you want to them uh, get them done and get people to buy them. It's a very small window that people generally are open to buying year-end holiday cards. It can't be too close to the holiday because then they don't have time to use them. But it can't be too far away or they're not ready to buy it yet. And the timing around all that just did not work for me this year. But I'm already thinking about next year. Right, here's the decision I'm making between what is on the. So for sure, the hair on the ogre's arms, on the troll's arms, is not as dark as the hair on the troll's head. But I think that for my purposes, I'm going to use the same color. And I'm going to, although it is the same color, his eyebrow uh, and the rest of his facial hair are the same. I'm going to choose to make the eyebrow darker so it stands out a little more. One of the things that because you saw me doing the coloring in these large patches, got to go back and zoom in around the drawing and find the places where I didn't quite fill everything up quite as much as I wanted to. Didn't reach the line, didn't touch the line. Little space showed up. There on the knuckle there. Hmm. Well, Linnea says they've done all kinds individual prints from a big box store, color prints. When do you think about uh, getting your holiday cards? Chris says, my wife does a great job with the holiday cards for the family. Social media has taken away some of the fun. Uh, yeah. Here's the thing. Now I'm gonna, man, if this is you, and particularly if this is you and you have sent me holiday cards, I'm not meaning to call you out. So the only person in this chat room right now that might be is Linnea. Linnea, if what I'm describing is you, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it knowingly, but it might be. One of the things that makes me a little, I don't know, sad, wistful, is when so I guess no. Let me change it. So doing the holiday cards is great fun for me. I pick a drawing I like. I print it out. It's uh, it's fun to have. I stick a copy of my sticker of the year in it. I've got a list, or make sure people get enough stickers if they've got kids. Um, but then I try and put something in it, and not just like I don't just sign my name and and stick it in. And you know what? Here's the thing: I do write the same thing for almost everyone. I figure out a phrase that I'm writing on the cards this year. Very often, it has to do with whatever the gag is on the cartoon. Um, but then I modify it sometimes depending on who is the recipient of the moment. And it takes a lot of time. Like that is that's the tough part. That's the toughest part of doing uh, holiday cards. Right? I could make up a program. I don't even print out the address labels. I handwrite everything. Um, and that's a time sink, particularly if I'm trying to do something personalized in most of them. And even if I'm just handwriting it, it takes a lot of time. Anything that is personalized is that much more time. And so, uh, you know, I completely understand the people that don't do that, right? It's hard, right? It's hard to come up with some. Writing is hard. I do this for a living, but I'll, writing's not easy, and coming up with something to say that feels appropriate and suited to the individual is difficult. So I get that people don't do that. A lot of people don't do that. But I'll tell you one of the things that I've seen a lot of people do that I don't get it, is you're going to print up a holiday card to send to people, and then they don't sign it. Like I was saying, I don't just put, Stan, Happy Holiday, Stan, 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 Stan. I'm doing 150 or 200 cards. Even just that will take a while. But I feel like that's a personalized. It's not just like I didn't hit a button and someone did it for me. Which is how I get the feeling sometimes when I get cards, people that are printed and then just stuffed in an envelope without even a, you know, Mary Beth and Bill or whatever, Jim and the kids. It's that falls into the, I can see where it feels, um, it might feel like I just feel like it makes me feel worse to do that because I don't feel like I'm putting in the effort I want to. But it's also without it, it is I don't know. It makes them feel just a bit more impersonal. You know what I mean? Like just even if it's just sign. Like I know some of my friends who do it with their spouses or their significant others, and they'll just sit there and Bill will sign it, and he'll pass it to Sue. Sue will sign it. Bill Sue. Bill Sue. Bill Sue. And that gets in the mail. And all right, I understand. They just Bill Sue. But Bill and Sue both signed it. They both touched it, and it feels more. It feels more filled with the spirit of the season. I go overboard, and I'm not saying anyone needs to do that, but I guess I encourage all of you, if you're sending cards, take the time to sign it. I think that, I don't know, maybe it is just me, but I think that the people that receive it will maybe, and in fact, I'm willing to bet most of them don't even think about what I've said about this, and so it doesn't even begin to occur to them to feel that it is impersonal not to have a signature. But I think that people do look at something that does have a signature and feel they took the time. They took the time to personalize it a little bit. They signed it for me. They gave me their autograph. Anyway, and it's harder, right? A lot of people now are doing, instead of a card that opens, it's just a single sheet with a picture of their family. A picture of the family and a Happy Holidays message on it. And so, unless you go and buy a special pen, you can't even write on that. You'd have to turn it over. I always check the backside. And I always feel a little better when I see that Bill and Sue, or, whatever. Now I feel like like I'm castigating people for no reason. Anyway, because of my own personal bugaboos, I will be spending time in the coming weeks putting messages on cards and stuffing them with stickers. Although I will say that this year my card is also one of those flat cards. It's usually I have a more traditional greeting card, folded open, picture on the outside, message on the inside. This year, I got commissioned by a friend to do a card for them, and I liked the dimensions of the card. So that's the dimensions I used for mine, but it was only when I was getting ready to send it to print that I realized it's not a card, it's a flat sheet. In fact, I'll show it. Right, this is the card. Anyone who's getting a card from me, this is the card you're getting. But it's a flat sheet, not a card. I'm still going to write on the back. So Chris has written. It says, You make a good point. I've always signed my cards "Love Bill and Sue," which has confused many people since my name is Chris. Yeah, you're welcome for that. But now, when you're doing your cards, you're going to think about signing Bill and Sue, aren't you? Maybe I should send people. Maybe I should sign all my cards Bill and Sue this year. If you get a card from me signed Bill and Sue, you'll know why. Well, you won't really know why, but you'll know where it came from. Because the why is because Stan's insane. Excuse me. Woo. It's funny. I really do look forward to it as much as by the end of it, my hand aches and I think, oh, thank God that's over. I don't think that when I'm getting started or even while I'm doing it's only right towards the end when I just want to be done already. Um, I really do look forward to sending out the holiday cards. And so for I went to the place where I get my I do therapeutic stretch. So the facility where I do that, I send them a holiday card every year. Not terribly surprising, I don't think. Um, but last time I went in, they were setting up their decorations for the year, and they've saved my cards. They put out my cards from years past as part of the decorations um, in the clinic. All right, thinking about that white again. So what I'm thinking here is whether or not so around the troll's hand, I've got that ridge of snow. Do I just color that as part of the background? It's drawn as part of this. I think I'd color it as part of this. Again, I'm gonna do a different color and then swap out to white. And I'm gonna, well, no, yeah. Because I want to swap it out and because of the way Procreate works, I can't let it touch any other color. So I've got to come close to the edge, but not there. Now I can fill that with the white. But, as I said before, I'll turn off the line so I can remember to fill in where I didn't get it before. Do you guys have any favorite holiday movies or TV specials? We just had the 60th anniversary of Charlie Brown Christmas a couple of days ago. My dad always took great delight in reading Christmas cards aloud at the dinner table. If only my prose were worthy of being read aloud. You know what? It is worthy. Even if it's just, we wish you a happy holiday, thinking of you, that's worth reading aloud. The bishop's wife, says Mark Schmaltz. Oh, Mark Schmaltz, how are you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Dr. Schmaltz. Sorry I missed you guys when you were in town over the weekend. I would have liked to have joined you. I didn't get the teeth after you. We do not want pink, fleshy colored teeth. The bishop's wife. I have a few friends who really like that one. I didn't watch that as a kid. Like I watched that. I didn't see it for the first time until I was in my 20s, and so I don't have a strong connection to it. It's a fine movie and a good Christmas movie, but it's not one that is in my particular rotation. Muppet Christmas. Oh, Muppet Christmas Carol's good. I so um, my one tradition that I hold each year that I do on my own is I on Christmas Eve I listen to the audiobook of um, Patrick Stewart's One Man a Christmas Carol. Patrick Stewart for a long time uh, would do each year he'd go a few different places and do a one man version of A Christmas Carol, which is fantastic. And um, he also did a film version, which I don't think is near as good as his one man reading. I don't particularly like the Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol movie. It was a made for TV movie. Um, I don't particularly like that, but I love his audiobook, his reading uh, of just him doing all the voices, doing everything. It's fantastic. In fact, it's one of those things that most years, sometime in the middle of the year, I'll wind up listening to that just for the fun of it, just because I like it so much. But Christmas Eve, when I'm making the deviled eggs for the dinner the next day, I will put on the Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol and listen to it. There's lots of others that I watch occasionally, but they're not. I can't call them my traditions because I don't do them all the time. That's the only one that I do every year for sure. Um, A Christmas Carol is such an interesting story to me, just because it's become so um, omnipresent in modern American and maybe throughout uh, Western and European uh, holiday celebration. How that story has become so omnipresent, and the number of ways it's memes and story hooks have been adapted and reused and become part of our lexicon. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. That's a good one. For a long time, that disappeared for quite a long while. I'm glad that it has reemerged. Like so, here's a weird thing. Like so many of Jim Henson's stories and movies, the original things that he has created, it's it's not quite. It's a little difficult. It's a little. It's not the usual. I guess uh, predictable story. It's very. I don't know. Henson certainly he had his own vision and his own way of saying things. Besides just the Muppets, the stories that he chooses to tell and how he chooses to tell them. Is anyone familiar with the Bloom County uh, Christmas special, "A Wish for Wings That Work"? It was one that a friend of mine introduced me to, and it's also is a it's 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 a strange one. It's not your standard holiday story. Oh dear, my pencil is running out of juice. I got to put that down for a second. So it happens I draw for 2.5 hours without putting the pencil down. The Apple Pencil has got a good battery life, but you need to set it down to recharge every once in a while. You can't just keep going and going and going for hours. But thankfully, it recharges very quickly. Like it'll be about 5 minutes tops that I need to do that. I like a lot of Bloom County, but I haven't seen that, says Mark. Yeah, no, it's it. I don't know. It didn't get played a lot on uh, on TV. I think it only got played 1 or 2 years, but it was out on VHS and now it's out on DVD. I think it's out on DVD. I think I own it. Um, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's worth checking out. I don't think it will become everyone's favorite, but there's some funny stuff in it. Um, it's all Opus and the animals. There's none of the other human characters from Bloom County. No, no, no. You know what? I think it's Opus. It's branded as Opus, not Bloom County, and I think Ronald Ann is in it. Mark says I kind of fear voice selections for my old favorite characters. Yeah, well, I hear you on that one. I think the voices on this one are pretty good. Uh, I don't remember who it was. Bill the Cat's in it. Opus is in it. Ronald Ann is in it. Um, Santa Claus is in it. They said I had to hunt it down, and I'm glad I did. Yeah, it's a really good uh, um, special. I highly recommend it. What is Stan's favorite playable species in D&D? Okay, that's an interesting question. Let's see. I saw an interesting take about Christmas Carol story and how Ebenezer Scrooge was to be pitied more than vilified. He never used his wealth on himself. He was cold, working. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's it's certainly true. Like Dickens didn't vilify him. He he mocked him. He mocked Scrooge in the text, but Scrooge is not vilified by anyone except the ghosts. They, um, so yes, what's my favorite playable species? I I am a gnome guy. I like playing gnomes. And when I don't play gnomes, I in third edition, I liked playing um, Warforged. I think that's more conceptual than mechanical. Uh, but I like creating Tin Man characters or uh, you know uh, data characters, right? Characters that are not human but are trying to but want to be Pinocchio characters. But I play gnomes more than I play anything else. Uh, I'm trying to think about what other so we got Charlie Brown Christmas, of course, and Frosty the Snowman. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was my favorite growing up. I was terrified of the Bumble. I used to have to hide my head behind a pillow when he came on early on with the abominable snowman, scared the living snow, snow out of me. um, uh, yeah, I love. I mean, I just it's come as no surprise. I grew up watching a lot of TV, but I love holiday specials. Uh, the Year Without a Santa Claus. Um, get um, what was it? What's the what was the name of that one with uh, the origin with Santa Claus origin, the Rankin Bass um, stop motion animation one that had the Winter Wizard and had the Santa Claus's origin with Burgermeister Meisterburger. Um, what was that? What was this? Is that Santa Claus is coming to town? It might be that might have been the title of it. Santa Claus is coming to town. There we go, Mark. They're just in time. Yeah, yeah, I love that one. uh, and of course, you know, the Year Without a Santa Claus with Heat Miser and Cold Miser. And what else? Uh, those are most of them that I remember. I know. I mean, there have been dozens and hundreds of them, and many of them appear for a year and disappear, like the Opus one, like a Wish for Wings at Work. Um, I love the. So speaking of Christmas carols, I love the Mr. Magoo Christmas Carol. Love the Mr. Magoo Christmas Carol. Um, Chris, the Star Wars Holiday Special. Really, really, you want to bring us down like that? How we doing? How we doing on the? See, look, it's already up to 60%. Told you this thing charges fast, but you can't ignore it. You got to remember to give that a rest every once in a while. It's just done. Um, the Star Wars Holiday Special. Oh boy. How sad. I remember when in the 60s and so mostly I remember in the 70s when variety shows were all the rage, and how every year my parents, my mother loved the Andy Williams. That's the one that she waited for every year. The Andy Williams Christmas special, and Bing Crosby's Christmas special. I think of all of those, and all of the classic entertainers had their own Christmas special each year. Um, The Bing Crosby one, I think, is uh, it's interesting to me that it is of all of those. Let's say all of the classic entertainers had a holiday special, and a new one each year. Many of them. Andy Williams certainly had a new one each year. Um, but Bing Crosby one is about the only one which is still remembered by, or is still known by the at all by modern audiences because of that one duet he did with David Bowie, which has become a kind of a standard. Bing Crosby and David Bowie singing "Little Drummer Boy." But does anyone remember any Andy Williams? No, no, they do not. Hmm. All right, I need to come back and add a line here. David was being a diva, and Bing didn't appreciate it. Well, it's funny because I've heard interviews with Bowie about it and how he was the rock and roll star, and they asked him to come in, and I think he got contacted about whether or not he wanted to rehearse, and he was like, "Doing Little Drummer Boy, what are you talking about? I don't need to rehearse. I can do this." And then the time came, and he started to get nerves because he was of the era. Like, this Bing Crosby, he's a big important guy, and how, despite the fact that he hadn't come in to rehearse, and he was doing this thing, and he felt nervous about it. Crosby just came in and said, "Well, just go ahead. I'll follow you." And that recording that we all hear these days um, was unrehearsed. Crosby knew the music and had an idea of what. Well, not just an idea. He had the um, I already said it. He had the music, uh, but he was able to just come in and apparently they nailed it in one take, or so I hear. Oh, Mark, do you like a Yule log video? I never understood those. Let's watch a video of a log burning, and we'll play some music. One of the when I was growing up, every year one of the channels would play the Laurel and Hardy movie, March of the Wooden Soldiers, and that was a Christmas. They would call it a Christmas classic, but it was one of those things. It was not Christmas until that happened in the greater New York area, um, and that has I don't know that was a national thing or just a New York thing, but it certainly has disappeared now. No one, most people I know have never even heard of that movie. Any of you guys ever seen that? The Laurel and Hardy March of the Wooden Soldiers? I think that was the name of it. I never. I mean, I didn't like it. It didn't. It didn't appeal to me. In fact, the wooden soldiers I found terrifying. It, but it was just good. A pretty good stop motion movie. Um, or scene of the toy soldiers when they start marching around. You know, early uh, green screen. And I'm sure it wasn't green, but uh, and then there was another one. This one got played in the theater in the New York area, or certainly in the suburbs where I lived. I'm not even sure if it was all over. Must have been because it was a New York City station. It was a movie called The Year Without a Santa Claus. And I think it was an Italian-made movie with a guy that the yeah. I just what I remember most about that is that there would be commercials for it throughout the holiday season. Never played on TV, but it's a strong memory for me watching or seeing the commercials for The Year Without a Santa Claus. Looked like a terrible movie, really. I'm surprised that they didn't do that for uh, MST3K, Mark. It's that kind of movie. Uh, or it sure seemed to be like of the same quality as uh, Santa Claus versus the Martians. The Year Without a Santa Claus. I know that the trailer for it is up on YouTube somewhere. I don't think the movie itself is. Right, check that out if you get a chance. Is there an animated mouse Year Without a Santa Claus? You know, maybe I'm getting the title wrong. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to put this down. Zoom out so you guys can look at it while I do this. But I'm going to go to the internet. I'm going to go to the internet. See what I can find out. Oh goodness, my. Okay, yeah, the year without a Santa Claus was the Heat Miser Snow Miser one. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Was what was the name of that one? No. Huh. I'm going to have to figure that out and get back to you next. That's absolutely not the name of it. Hmm. Twas the Night Before Christmas is the mouse one. Okay, fair enough. Um, man, what was the name of that movie? The villain was like it looked very similar to the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, like made up with a big pointy nose and hey, talk like this. Hmm. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure that out. The year. Oh, maybe it was the year without a Christmas. I'm gonna look it up again. I think it was the year without a Christmas. No, they're still giving me year without a Santa Claus. I don't want. I want year without a Christmas. Nope. All right. Well, I'm leading you down a rabbit hole because I can't find it. What are you gonna do? Hallmark. Oh, Hallmark Channel. the the folks who do the podcast um, Comic Lab, which is one of my favorite. No, far and away my favorite podcast. Um, we're talking about the Hallmark Channel and the Hallmark Channel's countdown to Christmas, and how they actually had a countdown to the countdown for Christmas. Um, because I don't know when they started doing this, but was it starting the weekend of Thanksgiving? They have a new Christmas movie every night, plus all the ones that they've shown previously in reruns. But there's a new one every night for a month, and then next year there'll be another new one. They've been doing this for years. They've got so many Christmas movies, and they're all the same. Okay, what are we going to do here? God, I gotta figure out what that Italian movie was. That's gonna drive me crazy. I say it was so much a part of watching television in my childhood. It, I never saw the movie, but I saw that commercial so many times. See, Michael, that's the idea for next Christmas, an advent calendar. So I don't know if you saw it, but last year I did advent advent calendar illustrations for Cobalt. They had in fact, you know what? Let me take a break here, and I can show you. This was the Cobalt Press. Where is it? Where is it? It's not in this folder. Is where it is. Oh, here we go. Yes, here it is. Um, this was the Cobalt uh, Advent calendar last year. It started. This was the before, and it wasn't every day. It was every second or third day. But you went in and you clicked on the thing, and it would change over. So this was what the calendar looked like when you showed up, and at the end of the month, it looked like that. And each one came kind of like Cobalt is doing this year. Each one came with a little digital prize you could get. Sometimes it was a discount on something. Sometimes it was a free PDF. Um, but yeah, yeah, we got Jiro in the sleigh, the Black Flag guy. These are a lot of these. This is a character uh, from one of their books. Is this Labyrinth? It might be a Labyrinth character. Anyway, most of these are uh, based on illustrations illustrations Cobalt published. That was a fun assignment. That was fun. We talked about doing it this year. The timing and the budget didn't work out great, but maybe next year, or maybe I'll do again. I kind of have to start planning for this in the summer. um, but that would be fun. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Okay, let's see where we at here with this drawing. We've got. Let me just finish putting the flats in, and then we'll wrap it up for the evening. You didn't know there was a name for Jiro? Yeah, Jiro. Their Cobalt um, mascot. It's funny. In fact, I suppose I should uh, do a little promotion here that the Cobalt Press last month published. Whoop, come on, if I come over here and switch views for a second, they published The Art of Cobalt Press, a nice hardcover book full of terrific art. The guy who designed Jiro for them, he did it as a cover for Cobalt Quarterly, and he just they wanted them. They said make a Cobalt, but it can't just be a generic Cobalt. Make it a Cobalt that'll be for our cover, and this was the start of what would become Cobalt Press. It wasn't even Cobalt Press back then. It was the Open Gaming Project. Oh, Tales of the Valiant. I think that's where that woman with the ice magician came from. Anyway, that Cobalt went on to appear on a couple of different covers. They asked him to do another drawing of another painting with the Cobalt, and another, and he's quoted somewhere as saying that if he'd known that this was going to become the this is going to be something he would be drawing for the next 20 plus years, he would have made those horns a little easier to reproduce. Because I'll tell you, having drawn Jiro a few times, he's got those horns are tricky. Yeah, it's going good. Write the ideas down. You know what? That's a good idea. The real problem isn't so much remembering most of the ideas; it's remembering them early enough. What I need to do is put it on a calendar. Right in August, start working on this. It's not so much remembering the idea as remembering to get started when in time to make it happen. Like I was talking about earlier, the challenge is that if you want to do a holiday themed product, you need it to be ready to sell in late October, which means that you've got to send it to press. If you're a tiny publisher like me, you need to send it to press in September or so. If you're a big publisher, you got to send it to press in April or May. You need to start thinking about these things months and months and months in advance. Hmm. Okay. Maybe it was the year there wasn't any Christmas? I don't know. I told you this is going to bug me now. It's going to. Not the year without a Santa Claus. No, this is an Italian. I think it's Italian. I haven't seen it, but it's a movie from the '60s that was played in theaters in the New York area every Christmas. As far as I know, I don't ever remember seeing it on TV. And it looked terrible. But as I was saying before, seeing that commercial is a was a big part of the holiday season for me. I I think even that probably ended um, when I was pretty young because I don't think my brother or sister remember that even the commercial like I do. I'm taking this wolf and I'm suddenly giving him. I'm doing shading where I'm not doing shading on anything else. It's usually on the another layer. All right, and then I need a faux black, dark blue faux black for that, and our crow that I spent so much time on at the beginning, who's very blue in the drawing, in the painting. Should I do that more blue? Alright, and now if I turn on the background layers, you can see that they are blocking it out. It's looking pretty good. I think I've done it. Search up a list of Italian Christmas movies, and it was on it. What was on it? Christmas That Almost Wasn't. There we go. I'm glad that it turned out to be Italian. Okay, so let's see. Stan, when would be a good time to request a commissioned drawing from you for next Christmas? Yes. Don't wait until November. Then things start getting dicey by the second week in November. It's possible if you wait that long, but yeah, if you want to get it for sure, then talking to me in September or October is the best time. The Christmas That Almost Wasn't. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mark. Mark says, you can tell he's getting serious. Less banter and no scolding for bad card etiquette. Well, yeah. That's one of the things about coloring. I often, even more than the drawing, I will get sucked down into thinking about what I'm doing with the colors, and I forget to talk. The Christmas That Almost Wasn't. All right, well, here, your homework is to go and watch the trailer for The Christmas It Almost Wasn't, and then we can talk about it on another show. All right, so I'm going to stop here. This is where we're at. We got the flat colors, all the inking, and the flat colors done. That's a pretty good accomplishment for one evening. I want to thank you all for joining me and joining me down this rabbit hole of holiday media. That was fun. I mean, the whole thing was fun, but I've enjoyed the last hour part of this conversation probably more than I should. I will finish this up maybe over the next few days. If you want to be the first to see it, if you want to be among the people who see it when it's done, then you've got to sign up for the free newsletter, the free Substack newsletter, 50 Years in the Dungeon.substack.com. That's where these things get released first, usually a week or two sometimes more than that before I show the rest of the world. And you can just stick around and wait and not be among the people who see it first. It'll show up eventually. Um, but yeah, there you go. Uh, and I remind everyone again that I have the calendar. Hold up last year's calendar again. Last year's calendar. This year's calendar is going to be larger. It's going to be. This is a 6x6, or 6x12 if you hold it open. This year, 2026 calendar is going to be 8x8, so it's going to be even bigger, wider, more year. Um, good night, Bill and Sue. This could be like my Jimmy Durante used to close all of his shows with "Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are." I could say good night to Bill and Sue, whoever they are. Yes, but the calendar is gonna happen. I'm gonna send it to press on Monday, this coming Monday. You have to pre-order it. I am not printing extras, or I'm not printing many extras. So if you want one, drop me an email or a DM on Facebook or something. Let me know, and it's $25 for the calendar and $10 for shipping domestically. Um, Tug my earlobe. Yeah, this is it. Not. I'm not. I'm posting about it on my social media. I'm showing each day what one of the months is, but I'm not doing a Kickstarter, and I'm not going and shaking the trees and making sure everybody knows it's happening. I'm making sure you, my dedicated audience, has a chance to get it if you want. Um, I'm guessing the way sales are going that there will be fewer than 50 of these printed. So it really is kind of a limited edition calendar. There are only about 125, 150 of the other one printed. So yeah, if you want a calendar, if you want to hang Stan art on your wall and have a different picture each month for 2026, that's how you do it. Um, Drop me a line. I'll get you the details. Otherwise, I will be back tomorrow evening with a new episode of Random Encounters, the improv cartooning show. And I'll be back next Wednesday drawing something. I don't have any guests lined up for the rest of this year. So I'll probably be doing the next picture in the work in progress series. Hey, David Shepard, good luck with the calendar. Thank you. And it's like it's not like I'm trying to succeed at anything. I'm going to print. I'm going to have one, and people who want one will have it. It's just that I want to make sure that, particularly those of you who follow me and closely and might want it, have the opportunity because it won't be around otherwise, and I'm not going to make. I mean, I'm going to. You know what? I'm going to turn a small profit on this, but I'm not going to. It's may not even be pizza money. Certainly not a pizza party. But there you go. Thank you, everyone. Great to see you. Great to hang out. Thank you, everyone who came to the chat. Remember to give a thumbs up, whatever you're watching it on. Give it a thumbs up or a like or a heart or whatever it is. It's very helpful in getting the show shown to other people. Also, afterwards, if you leave a comment on Facebook, on YouTube, leave a comment. Not like the conversation. I love this chat we're having, but leave a comment. These things are so helpful. I can't tell you how helpful they are. They're really helpful. Linnea, you're number one, Linnea. You are number one, and you want a calendar. Well, send me an email. I'll send you the details. That's it. I'm losing it. I'm losing the focus, and it's time to go. Have a good night, everyone. I will see you soon.